Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Classes of Mail. My name is Alan Gigax, and today we're going to talk about leadership, just generally. So, before we get into that, let me tell you a little bit about what I do outside of the post office. I am an avid hiker, and I run a local hiking group here in Las Vegas. It's called Vegas Hikers. It's on a website called meetup.com. And Meetup, if you're not familiar with it already, it's a website where people who have a common interest can get together and do the thing that they're interested in. In this case, it's hiking, but there are meetup groups for damn near everything. There's meetup groups for knitting and for types of dogs and for chess and game boards and you name it, old movies, there's meetup groups for everything. And it just so happens that the one I run is for hiking. And we've done pretty well for ourselves. My hiking group has more than 27,000 members, and we average more than 100 events per month. It makes us one of the largest meetup groups of any kind in the world, and makes us one of the most active meetup groups of any kind in the world. We're easily one of the most successful meetup groups and one of the biggest and most active hiking groups in the world, even outside of meetup. So all that sounds really good. But here is the big secret. I do almost nothing to keep that group going. Yes, I am in charge of the group. I run the group, I set the tone, whatever. But the key to the group's success is not really me personally. It's the people I trust, the other organizers. My role as a leader is to empower them and to give them what they need to succeed. If the group just depended on my skill alone, we'd probably have like 500 members and do 5 events a year, which is pretty typical for meetup groups. It's not about me, it's about seeing ability in other people and making sure that they can succeed. And to me, that's what a leader really is. Most of the organizers in our hiking group are stronger hikers than me. I'm a little chubby. Maybe you see that in my profile, in my picture of me and Annie. I can hike. I walk 10 miles a day at work, and I can hike pretty much any trail, but I'm not going to win any races to the top. But that's not my strength. My strength is in empowering people and being a big picture kind of guy, and then putting people in positions where they can run the group in a way that I can trust. So that's the meetup group. Now, for me, leadership isn't about being the best. Again, it's about helping other people to be their best. So let's bring it around to the post office. Every day at my station, I've already mentioned this in other episodes, but it's worth saying again, I am an alternate steward at my station. My union president does not believe I'm fit to be a regular steward. Even though there's an opening, he has kept me as an alternate steward. And that's his choice. That's his leadership position. For me, at my station, every morning, I give a talk at the morning stand-up to my fellow carriers. Management says whatever it is they're going to say. Hey, we need to all be out within an hour today, or whatever their thing is. And I give some sort of educational or motivational topic, and I'll talk, for a minute about whatever it is. Hey, make sure you fill out your 3996, or if you're going to bring mail back, make sure you fill out a 1571, or if you get disciplined, please give it to your union steward. It's all stuff like that. And then other things that I talk about on the podcast, like talking about the awards that management could give out, but they don't. All that stuff every morning. And the reason I do this, it's not to show how smart I am or how much I know. In fact, often it's quite the opposite. It'll be whatever stupid mistake I made delivering the mail the day before. Like last week when I was delivering, I missed a package, and it was on my package look ahead, and I didn't see any packages for that house. But I had actually scanned it, load truck, and so I knew I had that package. And I'm like, dude, I know that house. I know I didn't have any packages for them. And then I realized, oh my God, you know what I bet I did? I bet I put that package, I bet I mixed it up with the incoming parcels that I pick up from my customers. And so I had to go back out onto the dock at the end of the day and dig through our big OTRs of parcels, our outgoing parcels, until I found that parcel. And sure enough, that was the mistake I'd made. So I talked about that at the next morning stand-up, and you can be sure everybody at my station knows I definitely make mistakes because I am not shy about talking about them. But the takeaway was, just because I made a mistake, that we're all going to make mistakes, especially me, but I didn't try to hide it. I didn't try to cover it up. I told the supervisor what happened. Then I went out there and started looking for the package. And when I found the package, I brought it into the supervisor and says, hey, here it is. What do you want me to do with it? And I'm pretty sure my supervisor just took it and falsified the scan as like animal interference, but I don't have proof of that. Ultimately that's on them, not on me. So that was my topic that morning. So anyway, the moral of the story is, the purpose isn't for me to show how much I know. The purpose is to make sure that everybody at my station knows as much as possible. I want to make sure that my fellow carriers have the tools they need to shift that power dynamic between them and management. I want my carriers to be as empowered as they can be. And ideally, eventually, if I do my job right, my carriers won't need me at all. They'll be able to stand up for themselves. They'll know their own rights, and they won't have to come to me and be like, hey, is that a grievance? They'll be able to tell management, dude, you know what you're doing is wrong, and I'm just going to file a grievance on it, or I'm going to have Alan file a grievance on it, just like I did with Vegas Hikers, where I empowered people so that the group could lead themselves, essentially. That's what I'm trying to do at my station as well. And that education, that goal, it's the same with this podcast. I'm empowering myself by reading all these manuals and going over our job responsibilities and stuff like that. But in that process, I'm also empowering every listener. And that's what a leader does, at least in my opinion. That's what a leader should be doing. Make no mistake, there are leaders out there who think it is their job to hold everybody else down so that they can secure their position in leadership. That ain't my style. As far as I'm concerned, a leader serves others. That is a leader's job. A leader has an obligation an obligation to those who choose to join him or to join her. They are the servant to everyone who comes with them. And just for the record, I don't like the label follower. To me, that's not what's happening. If I'm a leader, you're not a follower. More accurately, you would say that we're going to the same place together, that I am with you and you are with me. In the same way, I don't like the word compliance. I like the word cooperation, because I can't force you to do what it is I want you to do. We're equals. I can't make you do things. We're both adults. And I wouldn't want to, even if I could. I want us to get where we're going together. If I'm climbing this ladder, I want to grab you and bring you up there with me. And that's what I'm doing, right? By reading all this stuff, by educating myself. The beginning, like season 1, that was me doing all the stuff that I learned from the Carrier Academy, right? Trying to bring you to the knowledge level that I had. But now, everything we're doing now is us learning together. And a lot of you guys, most of you guys maybe, are more educated on this stuff than I am. And damn, you should be doing a podcast and educating me. And I know some of you guys are, right? So anyway, it's about cooperation, not compliance, not force, not coercion. And I'm going to go back to my hiking group to give you an example. So this week I was on vacation because I took the hiking group on a trip to Mesa Verde National Park. It's part of this series of trips that I do every year called the Epic Trip. And what we do is we charter a bus, or I charter a bus, and get like 40 to 50 of other people from the hiking group, and we go to a national park. We go to Great Basin National Park, or Bryce Canyon, or Capitol Reef, or Grand Canyon, or wherever, like 6-8 hours from Las Vegas. And this year we went to Mesa Verde. And the trip had its difficulties. On the way there, we stopped in the town of Page, right next to Lake Powell, to get some lunch and, take a little break, stretch our legs, and the bus broke down. And we wound up being stuck in Page for 3 hours while the bus company sent out another bus. And so all of our camping gear and all the stuff we had loaded onto the bus all had to come off while we sat there in the parking lot for 3 hours waiting for the other bus to come. And I felt like my number one job was just to make sure everybody's morale stayed high and to make sure that everybody was cool, everybody was comfortable. And I'm just running around the parking lot, serving the people who are with me, the people who are on this journey with me. And we had some other difficulty later on, but they all, I plan for all this stuff as much as I can, but it's still not everything's going to go perfectly. And at the end of the trip, when everybody's telling me what a great trip it was, and oh man, I can't wait until the next one, this is going to be so great. Like, this trip sold out in like a half an hour because everybody knows these trips kick ass. And I tell them the same thing at the end of every year. It's not me. Yes, I put the trip together and I picked the destination, but the only reason the trip works is because of all of you, because we're doing this together. Because of your cooperation. Like, my trips run on time. I mean, they are dialed in. We get back on the bus at the right time. We get where we're going at the right time. We arrive at the right time. And it ain't me, because I can't force these people to get back on the bus so that we can leave and get to our destination. They have to do that cooperatively. And that's really, in my opinion, what a leader does. Gives people the opportunity to cooperate to get to this better thing. So that's that. That's doing it together. All right. So at my own station, if somebody at my station picks up on the stuff that I'm teaching and they run with it and they start growing and learning and developing and becoming a leader themselves, that is awesome. I am so in favor of that. And if they want to become a steward and they'd make a better steward than I am, because Lord knows there's people at my station who are smarter than me. There is no question about that. And if they'd make a better steward than me, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to vote for them and make them the steward, because I'd rather have somebody more capable. Because ultimately, again, it's not about me. It's the opposite. It's about all of us. And if somebody can do better for the brothers and sisters and siblings at my station than I can, then that's who I want to be the steward. I tell people that all the time with the epic trips. Like, dude, if you put together a bus trip where all I had to do was pay this small amount of money, show up, and everything's taken care of, I'm going to go on your trip. And that way I don't have to have these fucking nightmares about my own trip every year when I'm doing all the planning. It's the same thing, right? I can't do any of this stuff alone. And that's my philosophy. All right, so that's the philosophical stuff. Now let's get down to the practical aspects of leadership. So first and foremost, let's talk about the podcast. It's my opinion that leaders have an obligation to reach their partners where they are. What good does it do to tell somebody, oh, you got to read the contract, if they're never going to do it? You have to know who you're talking to. And if you want to empower them, telling them, we'll go read the contract, is that going to help them? No. If they're not going to read the contract, and you know they're not going to read the contract, what good does it do? It doesn't do any good. You have to find where that person is and reach them where they are. And that's what this podcast does, or that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Not everybody has the time to just sit down and read material like that. I mean, that contract is a heavy read. Not everybody has the attention span to sit down and do all that, or the reading comprehension for that matter. Some of that stuff is in complicated language. And dude, the fucking commas. The commas are a nightmare in that contract. And so that was the idea, right? With putting it in audio form, is that it makes it easier to consume, that it makes the contract more accessible to everyone. And what's really amazing to me is that nobody had undertaken that project before me. Like, I know we have carriers who listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks while they're out delivering the mail, even if they're not avid readers of traditional books. they listen to this stuff and they get used to it and they get used to learning in that way. And I don't get it why nobody did this before me. But nobody did. So here I am, and again, I'm trying to come to people where they are, and I have something that I can share with people, and that's the idea. When the rural carriers entered into their new route adjustment process, I forget what it's called, but you know what happened to them. They wound up losing a whole bunch of money. That the route adjustments were based on their scanners, and you got these rural carriers who were going home at like 2 o'clock every day, and they wound up losing a whole bunch of money. And some people had to go to work in 6 days a week, and it was a huge mess. And I was just listening to Ada Arbitration today, where Corey had on somebody who's going for a leadership position on the rural side of the podcast. And he was talking about a story I've heard before, that when they went to their union leaders to complain, the union leader says, well, we put that information up on our website. That answer is so grossly inadequate. Who goes to their website? How many visitors do they get each day or each month to the Rural Letter Carriers Association website? Who knows where to find that stuff if they go to the website? If you have 50,000 members, I have no idea how many rural carriers there are. Let's just say it's 100,000, just for round numbers. If you have 100,000 members of your union, and you have this vital information about the route adjustment process, and so you go and look at the downloads, and there's like 800 downloads of this route adjustment information, well, then you're not reaching your members, and you have to reach your members where they are. That's your role as a leader. So our current union leaders have the opportunity to come to members where they are. I mean, this is something that is possible to do, and they're absolutely failing to do so. Every time I hear Renfro say that, I've been perfectly clear about let me do my Renfro impression. I've been perfectly clear about what we're asking for in the new contract. That's an example of that failure. No, you have not been perfectly clear. Otherwise, I've been paying attention. I don't know what you're asking for. The only thing I know for sure is I do know a few things. Like I know about the new overtime list, and there's a few things that have come out. But like the only way I know anything about the salary is because I personally asked about that, and wouldn't just take, I've been really clear about that as my answer. No. So if he really thinks that he's been perfectly clear about everything we're asking about in the contract, that's a failure, because he hasn't been talking to the members. He hasn't looked around on Facebook. It's an ongoing joke on the NALC Facebook page, or on all the different NALC pages, about when's the new contract coming. Well, if union leadership was being crystal clear about what the process is and how long it's going to take and where we are and what the holdup is and all that stuff, and I'm not saying the information's not out there, that it's not out there somewhere, but it ain't easy to find, and the people that want that information don't have it. And it's easy to distribute that information. The union is just failing to do so. And so you have all these people who are paying their dues, and they feel completely in the dark. There are easy built-in ways to keep us completely informed. The postal record, right? Every month that an issue of that comes, see, I'm getting fired up. Every month that an issue of that magazine comes out, there could be contract updates in there. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what we've been asking for. I mean, the whole open bargaining, that's its own separate issue. Obviously, I'm in favor of open bargaining. And all right, I'm going to digress right now, because this is something that's been driving me fucking nuts. The resistance to open bargaining. If you're playing poker, you don't show your hand to the other person. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about in open bargaining. At some point, Brian Renfro had to tell the person on the other side of the table, hey, we want the starting salary to be $30 an hour. We want our new people to come in at $30 an hour, or whatever he asked for. The people on the other side of the table know that. And so for him to say like, oh, well, we don't want to reveal what we're asking for, he already fucking revealed it to the post office. So now to tell us like somehow that's going to let the cat out of the bag, give me a fucking break. Right? He's not saying like, oh, we're asking for $30, but we're going to settle for $24. No, you don't have to say like what you're willing to settle for, but at least tell us what you tell management. At least tell us what you're telling them. Because the whole idea that, oh, if we start, putting word out in the public, it's going to be used against us. Really? You think we're fucking idiots? You think if it could be used against us, management would already be using it against us because they know what we're asking for. They already know because we had to tell them in negotiations. So if that could just be used against us so that we wouldn't get anything, they'd already fucking do it. These positions are idiotic. And they think we're stupid. And that's why they tell us this stuff. Dude, it's maddening. So anyway, there is an avenue for openness, for keeping us informed, for actual leadership. The Postal Record, the You Are the Current Resident podcast. They're not being used. How many people, and even if it is in the Postal Record, right, how many people actually read the Postal Record? I know we get it sent to our house every month or every 2 months. I think there's 10 episode issues a year, whatever it is. How many people actually open it up and read that thing from cover to cover? I bet not very many. And so as a leader, it's up to that leader to reach his members where they are. The podcast, You Are the Current Resident, hasn't published an episode since December. It is now late June as I record this of 2024. And ironically, that episode was labeled Rap Session Part 1. Part 2 never came. And then there were 2 more episodes after that where they made audiobooks essentially of the Postal Record, which I thought was great because I don't really have time to sit down and read the Postal Record, but I listened to those and I got some really good information out of those. And then they just stopped doing it. Why? What is stopping Renfro and the other folks at National from keeping this line of communication open? What is stopping them from opening even more lines of communication? Nothing. There's nothing stopping them except for the will to do so. They are making a choice to keep us in the dark. And that's a failure of leadership. At the regional level, that's enough about national. You get it. At the regional level, I don't hear anything from my NBA, Keisha Lewis, except maybe an occasional article here and there. What is she doing to fight for us at the NBA level? I have no idea. What does she need us to do so that she can be more successful, so that we can really hold management accountable? I have no idea. She has the means to communicate with the members in her region. She chooses not to do so. She may have an article in the Postal Record. She may have an article that gets reprinted in my local union newsletter. One article once a month isn't reaching her members where they are. It's not reaching her stewards where they are. This is someone who is a leader of leaders, and she's utterly failing at communication. Why? Maybe it's me. Maybe she's passing things down to her union presidents, hoping that they'll pass it along to the rank and file members. But it's not happening. I've heard every once in a while, like I go to our union meetings and, the business agent wants you to know X, but it's one meeting once a month. There's plenty more avenues for that communication to happen, for that leadership to happen. What's stopping Keisha Lewis from hosting her own podcast? What's stopping her from having an electronic newsletter that we can easily get, every week, something like that, keeping us informed? What's stopping her from hosting open Zoom meetings so that we can actually talk to her, get feedback, let her know what's going on in the station, stuff like that? A 15-minute Zoom meeting, or even if she doesn't want to take questions, at least she could give leadership. Nothing is stopping her from doing that stuff except for the will to do so. And of course, it's the same at the local level. Maybe it's different where you are, right? I only know what happens here. But it's the exception, I can tell you that. Like, if you have great communication from your local union, that's the exception. That's not the rule. I only know of one local union podcast, and it's Delivering Solidarity, where that local union president has started a podcast. And he says right in his opening, and God, other union presidents, take note. He says right in his opening that he knows not everybody's able to make it to the union meetings. So with this podcast, he brings the meetings to them. And man, no shit. No shit. Bring the meetings to them. If you really want to spread the word, you can. But they're not doing it. How come other branches aren't doing that? How come there's only one out of all the branches in the United States of the NALC? There is one bringing its union meetings to its members. If there's more, let me know what they are, because I want to download and listen to them. Lord knows I have enjoyed listening to the Delivering Solidarity podcast, and I try to get all the material that I can. You know, at my own local branch, we have one general meeting per month, the first Wednesday of every month, I think it is. I always forget when the meetings are. And maybe we'll have 50 or 75 people show up, but that's out of more than 1,000 local members. So you're talking like 5%, 6% of the members who come and meet for an hour and a half once a month. That's it. What about the other 95% of the members? What are you doing to get the word to them? We do get a newsletter to our house every month, and I read it. I don't know how many other people read it. And that's the issue, right? That's what I'm talking about here. What is being done to get the message to our brothers and sisters where they are, where they're actually going to read it? That's the job of the leader. Take it to your members. Don't make them search for it. Don't make them fight for it. Make it easy, because you have the ability to make it easy. You're just choosing not to do it. There's no podcast for Branch 2502. There's no Zoom meetings for Branch 2502. We do have a website for our branch, and it's hopelessly out of date. And half of the links on the website don't even work. What is preventing us from getting that website up and running, from making it a functional hub for communication? I know it's not money. I know money's not the problem. Our branch has $1.4 million in the bank. Can't use some of that to update the website, to make it a place where members can go and get information? You know, like we got this problem with DPS right now, right? We do have an email thread for stewards. That's something. What prevents that thread from going to any members who want to be a part of it? I don't know. I think it's just the will to do so. So I got an email from the union president. I'm on vacation. I'm still getting this information. It's easy enough to distribute it. And it's about S999 mail in our DPS. And it's supposed to come to our cases so that we can case it up in the morning. And we had a grievance settlement where management agreed to stop putting it in our DPS and allow us to case it in the morning instead. And there was a time frame, and that time frame has passed, and now it's time to get statements from carriers and file grievances. What prevents union leadership from taking that directly to the carriers, from spreading the word directly to the carriers instead of going through this middleman? I don't know. The only thing I can see is just the will to do so. So in fairness, you know, we do have that email thread, at least for stewards. It's something. And our union executives do visit the stations from time to time, maybe once a month. I don't know how often it is. It could be more. They could obviously show up on days that I'm not there. It might be less. It feels like it's less. I really don't know how often it happens. And they go around and they shake hands with people. And I guess that's something. But they don't talk, right? We have our morning stand-up, and they're not there for that. And they could be, but they choose not to. They don't engage in education at the station. They don't come around and give us some empowering talk to let us know our rights and what management's, been doing and things like that. They could do that, but they don't. And that's a choice of leadership. just like Keisha Lewis, just like Brian Renfro. These are choices. There are opportunities to reach our brothers and sisters, to empower them where they are. And it's not being done. If you want this information, you got to come and get it. That's the stance of leadership right now. And it's not right. It's not right. What happened to the You Are the Current Resident podcast? Why did Renfro stop making it? I don't know. He hasn't said, right? I don't have the opportunity to ask him, but he certainly hasn't said. So instead, what do we have? We've got the Classes of Mail podcast. This one you're listening to right now. We have From Ada Arbitration. We have On the Workroom Floor. We have Fed Up. And we have a few others that have come and gone. Only Delivering Solidarity is hosted by a person who's in an actual leadership position. All the rest of those podcasts, they're all rank and file members or basic, just stewards helping each other. And we have to do that because we're not getting the help we need from the people who are supposed to be leading us. If you want to know what real leadership looks like, I'll tell you who's a leader. I'll tell you who's a real leader. Look at the leadership we've gotten on a national level from Tyler Vassar with the open bargaining. Right now he's hosting national Zoom calls. Why can't business agents host national Zoom calls? Why can't local union presidents host Zoom calls? Why does Tyler Vassar have to do it? Because our regular leaders are failing us. This is what leadership looks like. Tyler Vassar, that's a leader. That's somebody who is empowering his fellow carriers, his brothers, his sisters, his siblings. So that's enough of all this. Here's my message to you guys. If you're a shop steward, I implore you, I beg of you, talk to your carriers every morning. I know not everybody is a comfortable speaker. It's just not everybody's thing. But you're still their leader. It's your obligation. A leader's job is to serve those who walk with them. Educate your fellow carriers. Do what you can to meet them where they are and to educate, empower them, inspire them. Do what you can to make it so they don't need you anymore. Make them all as discipline-proof as you are. If you're a local union president, I would encourage you to consider trying to reach your members where they are. What's stopping you from hosting a podcast? Is it the $18 a month? You can do it. It doesn't, look, the microphone that I used for the first 60 or so episodes of this podcast cost me like $35. And I do it on a Chromebook. Geez Louise, the barrier to entry is so low. What's stopping you, local union president, from putting together an email list that anyone in your branch can be a part of? There's got to be unions out there that do that. Mine doesn't. I only have access to my own, right? As a president, there's no question. You're elected to be a leader, and it's time to start acting like one. Don't leave it to me to lead your members. Don't leave it to Corey Walton. Don't leave it to Tyler Vassar and Elliot Simmons and Cole Billups and Ron Speakman. Even 5 minutes a day from the local union president can make a difference. A quick email that spreads the word to your brothers and sisters and siblings of what's going on. 5 minutes. A short daily audio message telling them, what's going on a podcast. 5 minutes. And you keep everybody informed. You keep them empowered. You get them empowered. At my morning stand-ups, I get about a minute. I try to keep it under a minute. Maybe I get 2 minutes if I'm rambling on. And it has made a huge difference at my station. We get very little discipline at my station. We've got like 70 carriers, and pretty much the only discipline we get is attendance. Because they're educated. They're empowered. And if I had 5 minutes every day, man, the message I could send to these carriers, and they could get it where they are. It's better than the silence that they're getting now. And finally, if you're Brian Renfro, obviously you're not listening to this, but maybe somebody is. Bring back the Classes of Mail podcast. Why'd you stop? Who benefits? You too busy? Have somebody else host it. Just get that information out. As dry as it may have been, and we're very excited to have this person on it's still better than silence, which is what we're getting now. Back in the day, there was a voicemail call-in number where you could call and get daily contract updates. Bring that back. Whatever it is you're willing to tell us, I know you want to keep your secrets and you have your reasons, but whatever you can tell us, tell us. Who's hurt by that? Reach your members where they are. We have a lot of younger people who spend all this time on YouTube. Make a YouTube series. Make a TikTok channel. Make a national email list with empowering topics every day that just show up in our inbox. You know who does that? Management. We get those damn messages on our scanner that say, take authorized rest breaks to recover from the heat. How long do you think management spends putting that together? About 30 seconds? Where's that same 30 seconds from our union? Where is it? I don't see it. Ain't nothing stopping you from being the leader, any of you, that your carriers need. Ain't nothing stopping any of us except for the will to do it. So this goes to all of you in leadership. You find yourself in a position to help, in a position to inspire, in a position to empower. You owe it to the people you serve to reach them where they are. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Next episode, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get back to empowering you the best I can by reading more of the ELM to you and helping to interpret it. Then, after I'm finished reading the ELM, I'm going to go on to season 4, and I'm going to go over all the rules that govern our own union so that we can be sure that we're treating each other the way that we're supposed to be treated. We owe each other that. And then from there, it's going to go on and on and on. Because I owe it to you. Because I am your servant, not the other way around. Because I love you, I care about you, and I want you to be the most educated and empowered carrier that you can be. And I want that for your brothers and your sisters and your siblings in the union. Drop me a line, classesofmail@gmail.com, and let me know how I can help you. And I'll catch you guys next time.